I know that some in our audience know the finer points of hockey.
The Chris Johnston Show.
We are your friends.
The biggest stories, bringing you inside the game.
What did you hear?
The Chris Johnston Show.
What is going on?
Here's Chris with your host, Julian McKenzie.
Part of the game.
I was already excited for this episode, and then Bluegrass CJ over here decided to pop up with the sunglasses. So I know we are going to be in for a good one. That's, of course, if you're watching on YouTube, you see the sunglasses. If you're listening to this, well, I mean, yeah, thank you for listening, by the way. But yeah, Bluegrass CJ, the sunglasses are back, so you must be in a mood, sir.
It's a Monday morning mood, man. Like sometimes you got to talk yourself into it. Here we go. Let's go, my friend.
It's a really fun way of approaching Monday morning. So, I mean, I don't have a problem with Mondays. I know a lot of people are all like, oh, Mondays are a tough start to the week. I'm just happy to work. I'm just happy to just do stuff. But you have a very unique approach to the start of a week.
Did you know that today is 4 weeks from the start of the Stanley Cup playoffs? Like 4 weeks from now, we'll be doing a show, good Lord willing, and we're going to be talking about playoff games being played that night. Like that, I can't actually put my head around. It's funny, like the season, it goes like slow and then it goes fast. You know what I mean? Like it's both things at once. And right now it feels like it's been fast. So that's awesome.
And as I think we've established on our podcast, and I know other people around the NHL have, like there's no, I mean, yes, we bet on Florida. Yes, Colorado looks really good.
Yes, we put our money on Florida. We're all in on the bet.
But there's no, like, it really could come from anybody in terms of who's the actual contending team, who's a legit Stanley Cup playoff team, who could surprise us in the first round. You said it yourself, we could be in for some upsets. And believe you me, when it comes time for us to go through each series, like I want you to predict an upset and stay true to that word.
We didn't plan for this, but let's do a complete list of teams we could see winning the Stanley Cup.
Let's do it
now.
Let's do it right now.
There's clearly no debate, I don't think, about like there's no controversy if we put Tampa, Florida, Carolina in there.
So those are 3 teams. So Tampa, Florida, Carolina, 3 Eastern Conference teams. Surprised you didn't just go straight for Colorado to start.
Okay, I'm going East first. This is the way my brain's working this morning. So then
Cool.
I think we can probably put Toronto and Boston in there.
So you believe in, here's the thing. I know I've thrown in Toronto in there, right? In the past and past episodes or whatever. But considering the likely path they're in, where they're probably going to run up on a really good Atlantic team, do you think there's still enough to be considered in that echelon?
For sure. Like my point is, okay, I'm not predicting they're going to win the Stanley Cup.
No, you're not.
I'm merely saying,
to be clear.
But like we're making a complete list of teams we actually believe can do it.
Okay.
Toronto is on that list. There's no doubt about it. Like look at the Leafs right now. I'm pretty sure they've lost 1 game since January where the other team scored 3 goals. Like basically, if they get anywhere near average goaltending, they win. Like seriously, look at their winning percentage. They've got shit goaltending for 2 months. I'm not saying every game, but like just brutal goaltending. And they're still winning at like a 105-point pace since January. So
nope, you're not wrong.
Again,
you are not wrong.
My point is, I'm not saying I like them better than Tampa or Florida, but maybe they get a goalie that gets hot and it won't be that huge of a surprise. So I'm putting Toronto and Boston in there. That's 5 in the East. Do we want any of the other Metro teams? Like, do we want a Pittsburgh, a Rangers, or Washington? Like, can they win the Cup?
Here's the thing. Like Pittsburgh Penguins, I know the goaltending let them down last year. And we've mentioned it as well. Like there's a last dance element to this team. They have Sidney Crosby, who we've completely undervalued throughout this part of the year, having one of his better seasons, of course, and of getting Malkin and all that. Like you can't ever forget about the Pittsburgh Penguins and the New York Rangers.
Are we going to put all 8 Eastern Conference teams in the Stanley Cup possibility?
But that's the whole point. There are so many teams that are legitimately good, and fine, there are teams that kind of vary from Stanley Cup contender on down, but it could really come from anywhere. I think. I really think. I don't have a problem putting Pittsburgh. I don't have a problem putting the Rangers in there. Yeah, like I think there are some legit teams even beyond the obvious ones in the East that like you just can't sleep on because they might have enough to go on a run. Just that's how bonkers the Stanley Cup playoffs can truly be. Like we just came off a season where a team that had no business even making the playoffs pushed through a bunch of teams and made to the Stanley Cup final. Of course, I'm going to consider the Pittsburgh Penguins as a cup contending team. Absolutely.
Right. So then when we go west, I mean, Colorado and Calgary, I think, are relatively obvious as
Yes.
in this group. I mean, can we put Edmonton in there? I don't know,
but I'll say this:
we labeled them a pretender earlier in the year when we did that show. We took a lot of heat, so I kind of feel like we got to lean in on that now.
Whoa! Time out, my brother. You're the one who called them a pretender. I'm the one who just asked you a question.
Whoa.
You're the one who took the heat.
It wasn't those were your labels. I was just saying I didn't see them as a.
And you used them to call them a pretender. I was just a dude who's just chilling.
You radioed me, you jerk. You radioed me.
I did not radio you for a damn minute. You could have easily said they were a contending team. You could have said it.
If you're going to do that episode, you got to be honest. You got to be honest.
To be honest, own it. Absolutely. Don't be like, oh, I labeled a pretender and all. I got to think about that. Like, no, you did. You did.
You radioed
it. You own it. Own your words, CJ. You labeled them a pretender, and you know what? You were right. As soon as you said that, they went on like their worst slide of the year, and you had a point because they did not look like a team that was genuinely built for the playoffs. And I think you still have a point. Yes, they're in a playoff position right now, but own it. I think you should still own it because I think you have a legitimate point with the Edmonton Oilers. I don't know if I trust them in the Stanley Cup playoff series.
Let's move along. I'm adding Minnesota to this list.
Minnesota should be there. Absolutely. Especially them.
They're sneaky, man.
Absolutely. And they need this to go well with the cap hell they're going to put themselves through over the next few years. They need this.
And Vegas is on that list if they make the playoffs, but they might miss the playoffs. So
yeah, that's funny, man. You know what I thought about this? Jack Eichel was in Buffalo all those years and never made the playoffs. And he gets traded to Vegas thinking, okay, he'll finally make the playoffs. And now there's a chance he doesn't.
Nuts.
It's
so I'm sending a text. I never do this during the show, but
I don't know about that. I think you do.
I don't do it that much, though.
That's true. You don't do it that much. And look, you're a busy dude. So like, it's not, I don't take offense to that. Because you're probably like breaking a trade or a big story or something like that. That's the thing I realized when we said, all right, we're going to do this show. That was one of the things that in my head, I was like, okay, that's going to genuinely happen. Like, I'm surprised to this point, it has not happened yet where we do a show and you're just like, okay, I literally need to like break off because some big story is about to happen. And then I'm like sitting in the Zoom for like 30 minutes.
But this is the truth is I actually don't look at my phone often during the show, like on purpose. Like I want to be here. You know what I mean? I've actually gotten better at that with age in general. Like I don't look at my phone in bed. Just like lots of things. Like I sort of establish ground rules in my life. Otherwise you can live on this thing forever. So
to wrap up that impromptu segment at the beginning, I did not have a pen around me, so I was not able to like run and take the notes down.
I think we put down 8 Eastern Conference teams and 3 in the West.
Okay, but like Colorado, Minnesota, Calgary is in there. Those are the 3 really good teams in the West. Like
give LA credit. Like they're having a great season. They're comfortably in a playoff spot. I don't think that they're there yet. Like I'm not putting them at that list. I mean, St. Louis, are we sleeping on St. Louis a bit? I don't know.
I don't know about St.
I don't have any like grand thoughts on St. Louis. Like I'm not against them or for them. I'm just kind of like, that's a team that's in the league.
They've done it before, but in years since then, I'm not sure they've given me enough reason to think they could do it again. I just think the rest of the West, or at least those 3 teams, even if they win a round or 2, it might be too strong for them. I don't know.
Well, let's be honest. As much as we're talking about like how open this is, like I'm almost expecting Colorado to just like march to the Cup final. Like maybe that's unfair or unreasonable, but like I even love all these Daryl Sutter quotes. Like every week, it's just like we better not play Colorado. We're gonna get our asses kicked.
Yeah. But I don't know. This Colorado this year. I was actually talking about with a friend over the weekend. He's a big Avalanche fan, and he is actually approaching this with dread. Like he's seen he's seen the Avalanche fail at so many turns before, and he almost kind of expects them to stumble like again, even though this is like the best Avalanche team we've seen in a while, and they should go to the Stanley Cup final. But we also said that about them last year as well.
Well, hockey is a game played with a piece of rubber on ice. So shit happens, man. Like it's like the whole game is trying to control everything and you can't control it. Like the point is we could sit here and say this team should go to the cup final. This team should win a round. That's not how it works. Like there's just like a lot. I mean, that's why it makes our hearts dance, because it's like, it's so crazy. Right. So, I mean, it's going to be crazy. I actually think that this is probably why it's a good year to be a Leafs fan, because I don't think anyone here around me in this city is like that. I mean, people are excited. Don't get me wrong. Auston Matthews scored his 50th, but like everybody that's a hardcore fan that I know is just like, they're just waiting to like have another knife inserted right through their chest. And maybe this is the year that something goes a little different, because I think if they win around, it'll flip one. It'll be crazy. People will be like, of course they won around. Like it's been one of the best teams in the league for 5 years that they've lost a few key games. So damn right they're in the Stanley Cup conversation.
So here's something I want to bring up, because at different points in the year, whenever you bring up the Leafs and their expectations, you bring up that I think from the vantage point of management, they do not see this year as an all-in year. They do not see it as the year where they have to make everything work. As an outsider, I always thought this year they have to win a round. They do not need to go to the conference final or even win the Stanley Cup. This year, the Leafs need, for their sake, they need to win a round. Like they cannot go into next year with the weight of the world behind them and they have not won a round. Like I think that's so much pressure for everyone in that organization to deal with. And they would make it infinitely better on themselves if they found a way to win a round this year. Even if especially in this case, if they're going to go up against a good team, like that's going to do wonders for them. If they knock off a Tampa, for example, in the first round, do you know how excited everyone would be? I mean, of course you would. Yeah,
we're going to have to like put wood on our windows in case there's like riots in the street. I mean, it'll be crazy.
Oh my God.
But like, here's the thing. You have to separate kind of like, there's the story, right? There's the story about a team and then there's like the reality. And I think you have to look at things plainly sometimes. I understand why the fans get wrapped up in the story and the emotions. Like that's what makes fandom fun. But like the truth is, like just look objectively. Like Auston Matthews, he's on pace for 60 goals and 100 points. That's been done once since 1995. Once. Alex Ovechkin, 07-08. Like he's literally having a generational season. That's never happened. Mitch Marner is a player the Leafs have never, ever, ever had in 100 years of history. So, and they're young. Like Austin's 24. And so, yeah, he doesn't get till 34 where he's going to be that dominant, but he'll probably be dominant at 25 or 26. Like I think that's reasonable. And so if you're Leafs management, as long as Auston Matthews is under contract to you, which is 2 years beyond this, that's the window, in my opinion. And so, of course, they want to vanquish all the ghosts. They want to win a round. They want to win 4 rounds. They want to parade that Stanley Cup down Bay Street. But if it doesn't happen this year, they still have next year with one of the best players on earth and a guy who does something that almost no one else in the league does, like the way he creates everything. So I think that's the window. I mean, look, it's not forever though. I'm talking 2 years beyond this one. And look, we're going to devote a whole season of these podcasts to like, will Auston Matthews sign in Toronto? What's going on with his contract?
Oh yeah. I can't wait for those episodes.
It's actually pointless to get into it now because he can't sign even if he wants to. And it's purely speculative, but like, we're not far off that conversation. But my point is anyway, while he's under contract, there's no question. Look, we didn't even talk about it. I went to the game on Thursday last week with my dad.
Yes. Yes.
How cool is that, man? That was so cool. They put us on TV. Cool. Of course, the 1 minute I'm looking at my phone, we're on TV.
That's true. It ended up being a fun meme. I remember like you were trying to message like, how do we turn this into a meme? And it ended up being a meme for like a night.
I was like, Steve Dangle, I'm going to give you my passwords. I don't know how to put this video on my Instagram. Please help me.
Did your dad enjoy the night and his birthday?
Mm-hmm. He had people coming up to wish him happy birthday at the game.
That's awesome.
And you know what's fun? A few people came up and said they love the podcast. Like how cool
that's
is
good.
that?
I mean, you look, the podcast is pretty successful. I'd argue myself. So of course people are going to do that.
It's cool to hear that though. Like it sounds weird, but like, I feel like, it's Monday morning, right? It's like you, me and producer Nick on a Zoom. Like sometimes you don't connect this with like people out there actually listening. Like it sounds strange. Like we don't do live performance, right? So like I don't know who's listening. Like Adam Wilde says, hey, this is going okay, but I don't really know. Like it feels like me, you, and producer Nick on a Monday morning talking about hockey. So
sometimes you got to go into this. It's funny because sometimes I go into stuff like this thinking I'm talking to like one person. Like, okay, this podcast is for this person I'm just thinking of, and that's just it. When I used to do weather, I used to always think, okay, my grandma's watching this, and that's the only person I'm thinking of. So it's funny you think that, but like, yeah, you never know who's really listening. But sometimes it's just good to just kind of focus on one person, and that'll kind of get you through a recording. I know it's kind of blending two things, but yeah, it's not that far off from what you're thinking.
Well, and that was my first NHL game in the stands where I wasn't eating edibles beforehand in like 5 years.
Well, thank God.
It was my first sober experience at an NHL game in the stands in a long, long time. And it was just cool to sit among. It's funny because like, I think rightly so, but Toronto gets criticized for like not being a loud building, but it feels louder when you're in the seats. Like when you're around people that are actually excited, you're kind of more part of it. Like our section had this guy who was getting a 50 chant started every time Auston was on the ice before he scored his 50th. And like, I don't know, it was just really neat to be relaxed at a game. I'm not thinking, what am I writing after? What do I have to ask the coach or this or that? And obviously to be there with my dad was special. So it was a really cool experience. The game was 7-3. So the goals were raining from the sky, which is always, I think that's fun. Like we can all pretend we love the fine art of a 1-0 game, but like, come on, we're all like, well, look, there's probably been a time where 1-0 was a good game, but most of the time it sucks. 7-3 is way more fun, just in general as a score. Like the Leafs were down 2-0 in that game after like 5 or 7 minutes or whatever. And they came back and won 7-3. So like if you're at the game, there's goals everywhere. I don't know. It was a great night, and I'm really glad we went.
Did you see this tweet from Mark Lazarus Monday morning? Point per game players in the NHL by season, if from like 2011, 2012 to now. So like in 20, I'm just going to read upward. 2011, 2012, there were 9 point per game players in the NHL season. Then going up, you have 20, then 13, 3 straight seasons of 8, then 24, 32, 22 over the last 2 seasons. Any guesses as to how many point per game players there are in the NHL as we're recording?
I haven't seen this, but I'll give you the context for my guess. I was doing my Inside the NHL column for North Star Bets yesterday, and I noticed Elias Lindholm is a point per game player for Calgary, and he was something like 40th in scoring overall. So I'm going to guess 45.
46. You were one
off.
Oh
my God.
That's amazing. That is incredible.
Vegas, let's go. Let's ride the hot hand.
That is well done. 46. As of right now, there are 46 point per game players in the National Hockey League, which I mean is the most maybe the league has ever seen. It's one thing to say, okay, this is the highest scoring we've seen in the league since 95, 96. How many times in their history have they had 46 point per game players? I mean, you have to go all the way back.
Yeah, you have to go in the 80s. Like in the 80s, Absolutely. Everybody started with 20 points. Yes. So you already had 20 points when you started the season. So that's why everyone had like 180 point seasons in the 80s. But
okay, I want to keep on the theme of goal scoring.
I don't even know what to do with that, CJ. Let's move on.
Let's just move. That's just a lot because you
didn't live in the 80s, bud, so you don't even know about it. Let me tell you a thing or two.
I always said because I always get very wary of people like, man, I wish I could go back in time and experience a different era. Let's just say for me, there are not too many points in history I want to go back to. There's only one I would really want to go back to that I haven't lived through. It would be the 80s. I think like I would be like a big like Bo Jackson kid and just like watching that Super Sports show. I love Bo Jackson. I love Bo Jackson.
And the 80s were the height of Lemieux and Gretzky. And yes. I like we're dating ourselves. Most of our audience just like they know those guys are in the Hall of Fame. They don't know them, but it was a pretty exciting time to be a kid because you had these like 2 amazing, like insanely good players. And it was a real argument back then about which was better and all that stuff. It was really easy to understand, I guess. And it was awesome.
Man. So the 80s, that would be the era for me to go back if I had a time machine, if I even wanted to do that, because I'm not really interested in going back further.
Well, Jackson played in the NFL and Major League Baseball. Like I was just a kid
at the same time. You obviously got to watch those Bo Knows commercials.
Yeah. And he broke a baseball bat over his knee once, and like
with his knee. Yeah.
He's
Do you
insane.
remember that? Remember that one play? Like he makes the catch and he like runs along the wall and then hops off.
Yeah.
Like
This is our history corner. I know Adam Wild likes his history corner. Kids, go look up Bo Jackson. This guy was insane. If you've never heard of him, start Googling him.
Like two-sport athlete and just still one of the greatest marvels in terms of athleticism we've ever seen. I know Deion Sanders came after, and Deion Sanders is prime time for a reason. But before Deion, we had Bo Jackson. But anyway,
the early 90s were lit too. Like for me, they're carryover to the 80s. Like 91, 92, even 93, like the Jays winning the World Series, like that feels like 80s to me. But it was so cool as a kid, and the Jays won the World Series 2 years in a row. It was nuts. Anyway, I didn't have much of a life. Like I just love sports, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's a good reason why this podcast is doing so well and why we both get along on this podcast. We both happen to love sports.
I can't tell you anything else that happened in those years. I mean, yeah, there was a Gulf War or something, but forget that. The Jays won the World Series. Awesome.
I was born, I think, 3 months after the 94 baseball strike began. Wait, no, it's 3 months before. 3 months before the strike began, because I was born in April. And then, or maybe I have my numbers wrong. Who knows? No, because August is the 7th.
I'd already scored 3 goals in 21 seconds before you were born.
4 months, actually, because April.
You got a birthday coming up.
I do have a birthday coming up, actually, in a matter of days, actually. I can't wait to celebrate.
I feel like you've been celebrating all month already. Like, what's going on?
Here's the thing, because on my actual birthday, the Canadiens are playing that day. So I know I'm going to have to watch that game. I took that day off from like editing and stuff, but we will be recording a CJ show on that day. Like,
are you going to be able to do that?
I mean, yeah, of course.
I figured your celebrations would be tied up. Your schedule would be full with these meetings and.
Here's the thing, man.
Tequila shots at 9 a.m. And
I don't know about shots at 9 a.m. At 9 a.m., I'll, maybe I have to tell my dad, hey, just hold off on the birthday wishes for a moment. But like, don't worry about it. He might have done it at like 8:30. I'm waiting for like my grandmother on my dad's side to call me in the morning and then be like, hey, happy birthday, And then after I finish the podcast, we'll see how the rest of the day goes and taking all the birthday wishes and all the phone calls and emails and messages and stuff and just being around the folks here and just enjoying a special day.
Are you someone who gets stressed out by birthdays? Like, do you find like the numbers getting too big? Does that give you like anxiety or anything like that?
Nah, I feel the opposite. I want to get older. I want to experience like what it's like to get older and to, yes, there's going to be like, literal growing pains and whatnot, but like, I'm just thankful for all the experiences and the opportunity to live life. Like, I want to be 28 years old. I'm not one of those people like, oh God, I'm going near 30 and I don't know what to do in my life. I know what I'm doing in my life and I know where I want to go. So I want to get to that. I mean, I'm not rushing to get to stuff, but it's like, okay, like this is the next year. This is the next opportunity for me to just live and just go through everything, man. Like that's how I see it.
And the truth is it beats the alternative, because if you don't get to the next year, something bad's happened. So, you got to celebrate those years as they go by.
Exactly. Okay. So
I have rails today. I'm sorry. I have hijacked the show with nonsense.
That is fine. I wanted
Did you plan anything, or are we just going to sit here and bullshit?
No. I planned stuff. I specifically planned stuff, but I'm actually going to do a small tweak because you mentioned Auston Matthews, and we'll leave the Trevor Zegras debacle, which I foresaw as something that was going to take up most of our time on the podcast today towards the end before we get to ask CJ. But because you mentioned Auston Matthews, I wanted to ask you this question. Which of these accomplishments in the last how many days is the most impressive to you? And take out the personal element of your dad in this, because I know that could influence you here. But Auston getting 50, Draisaitl getting 50 and cracking 100 points, or Jonathan Huberdeau breaking the franchise record for Panthers points in the season after breaking the record for most assists by a left winger in the season. And I know maybe they vary in terms of records on top of one another, but those three players, they're going to be in the Hart Trophy conversation. They're going to be in the respective Rocket Richard and not Art Ross conversation. We're going to be talking a lot about Draisaitl, Huberdeau, I should say, and Auston Matthews over the next little while.
Like you can't really say one is better than the other.
That's fair.
That's not how milestones work. But it's got to be Draisaitl because this is his third 50-goal season. He's had a couple 100-point seasons anyway.
His second 50-goal season.
So, like, 50 goals to me is the ultimate NHL milestone. I think it's the hardest one to hit. If you look historically, like the last 10 years, almost nobody, I mean, Ovechkin's done it a whole bunch, but other than that, there's like, Corey Perry does it 1 year, but like there's not like a long list of guys who get there. And so to get multiple of those things under your resume, I put that up there. But then that's sort of unfair to Matthews because this would be his third 50-goal season if any of the last 2 seasons were close to a full year. So, I probably got to say Draisaitl though there. But look, they're all amazing accomplishments. Those are 3 players having tremendous years. I don't know how we're going to account like that. If I can have some beef with the NHL, like why is the Hart Trophy the player adjudged to be the most valuable to his team? Like that's what it says. Like how do we evaluate that when you have Draisaitl and McDavid on the same team? Because I'm not hating on either of them, but it makes it muddy, right? Because it almost feels like you can't vote for one in a way because it's like they're both so ridiculous. I don't know. We need we got to go to like most outstanding player or something like that. That's just more clear. And then look, then you can judge between 2 guys on the same team and be like, hey, McDavid's still Draisaitl, you had an awesome year, but McDavid's got to win. I just feel like it gets muddy where it is in hockey.
CFL, the Canadian Football League, great league. They have it right when it comes to just evaluating or giving voters an opportunity to evaluate the best player in the league. There's no, second definition with valuable or people misinterpreting the definition. Most outstanding player. Who's the best player? Yeah. It's straightforward.
And it should be what we're measuring when you think about it, or who had the best season even. Like who had the best season in this season? Like, so my point is, if you vote for Auston Matthews this year, it doesn't mean you think he's necessarily better than Connor McDavid, but you could be voting he had a better season than Connor McDavid. I mean, that you could argue, you could make that argument.
Maybe players
are coming out soon, bud. We haven't got there yet, but like soon we're going to actually, like, this is going from the sort of the thing we talk about on the pod to like something we actually have to vote on. Like, it's going to be crazy.
Are you, I forgot, I think I asked you already if you're able to reveal who you're going to put on your ballot for, if you'd be willing to do that on a future podcast, either before, or I guess you'd only do it after. I'm not sure how it would work.
Yeah. Like, I think that they want us to kind of be somewhat secretive about it, but like, who listens to this podcast anyway? We'll just put it out there.
We just went off a whole thing about how people listen to this, but no sarcasm. I should have tracked the sarcasm. Between Austin, Draisaitl, and Hugh Beldo. Yes. Between Austin, Draisaitl, and Hugh Beldo, who makes right now, because I know who you've stood on in the past, and I want to know if it changes, who between those 3 players makes the best case for the Hart Trophy? This doesn't necessarily mean you think they are the winner of the Hart Trophy, but between Austin, Draisaitl, and Hugh Beldo, who makes the best case to be the Hart Trophy winner under the parameters that we have now and not the ones that we would more desire to have?
Auston Matthews. Not even a question for me. I mean, he's got 44 goals in his last 46 games as we're recording this.
He does.
The last guy to do that was named Mario Lemieux. You might have heard of him. There's statues of him all over the world because he's outrageous. Like, he's walking among the greats, Austin. This is a season, I think he'll have trouble topping the season, just my opinion, in future years. Like, he set the bar so high this year. It's pretty crazy. So he would get my vote of those 3 players right now. He doesn't have, as great as Mitch Marner is, Marner didn't have a great season for a lot of the year. Like this is, scoring a goal in the NHL is about the hardest thing you can do. And he makes it look easy. So I think he's the one. But I'm not saying he's going to win. Like, Shesterkin's got to get in there at some point in this conversation. McDavid's got to be a factor in that. Like, I would still lean to McDavid over Draisaitl if I'm voting for one Oiler. But again, the freaking trophy like handcuffs us the way it's described. Like, maybe we'll come to some resolution here. Like, maybe you can consult me on the vote. Like, I don't know how to handle it. And I want to, like, I take the voting really seriously because like this is reflected in history, man. Like, it matters. Like, if McDavid wins 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 of these things. And I want to be fair, right? You want to be as neutral as you can be, and you want to look objectively at the facts. But yeah, I here's the thing. Player most valuable to his team, Alexander Barkov is more valuable to the Florida Panthers than Jonathan Huberdeau. And that's not That's not
fair.
hating on him. That's not,
Nope.
I'm not getting into a dumb Alan Walsh beef here. I'm staying clear of that. But like strictly by the definition of the rule, and Huber's having an awesome season, but he's got a lot of assists. Defensive metrics aren't maybe where you want to see them. I think Austin's having the most complete season among those players.
That's a fair argument to have, and you're totally entitled to that. Would you ever be open, and you would never do this, but I still want to ask it anyway. Would you ever be open to having members of Discord, of the SDPN Discord, help influence your ballot?
Sure. Not influence, but I'm curious for your opinions. Like, why not?
Okay.
I'm not kidding. I take days to fill out that ballot.
Okay. All right. Maybe we can work something out then. I thought you would have said no about this, but maybe there's some way we could do this where we're like, hey, if you are a fan of the SDPN Discord, suggest who should win each award category and give your reason. I don't know. Yeah, just give your own ballot.
Give me something to think about. Because here's the thing: at the end of the day, it's my name on the ballot, right? And it actually goes down in history. Like, I think at some point all these will forever be made public, and that's fine. Like, I'm comfortable with that. So I have to be comfortable with the choices, right? Like, but I'm open to anyone's opinion. I'm just saying, like, this isn't going to be like popular fan vote. Now I'm voting this guy for the Norris because Roman Yossi won a poll on Twitter. Like, I mean, I won't, whoever I put number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there I'm going to believe in it, but I'm open to all arguments, thoughts, what have you, before I finalize those votes.
Okay. I have an idea that I'm going to get going on as soon as we finish recording. You see these player polls that go around. I think we should poll fans of the show who are obviously big hockey fans, obviously watching the Steve Dangle podcast, the Agent Provocateur podcast, Noxie and Cax. Shout out to Cax, by the way, doing her thing at the PWHPA showcase. Berkshire and I got to check that out over the weekend, doing her thing with Team Harvey's in Montreal. Just had to give that brief shout out. But I think it'd be cool to actually see what the fans of the show on Discord would, who they would vote for each of the ballots. And I guess maybe we'd have to do it to a point closer to the end of the season to get more accurate votes. But that's something I think we should actually do. And we should actually do an episode on.
Love it. Love your
All
style.
right. Perfect. Spring is here. Take a real spring break and book yourself a moment of smooth at the European Wax Center. During this time of year, many of us want to hunker down, hibernate. But the truth is, it's just as important to keep doing the things that make you feel good in one part of the year as opposed to the next when it gets a little bit warmer. Kind of like how it is right now. Smooth is always in season. So you have to maintain your wax regimen and keep your self-care grooming going strong. You can keep your skin fresh and smooth by sticking to your waxing routine at European Wax Center. Whether you want your back, your shoulders, legs, nose, or brows done, you can get groomed by the experts at European Wax Center. They offer personalized consultations so you can find the wax that works best for you. Take a real spring break, book yourself that time at European Wax Center. They have an IG, they have a Twitter, European Wax Center. Center, for those who maybe care about Canadian or American spelling, center is spelled CENTER and not RE, like what we would do in Canada. Make a reservation today. Your first wax is free. That sounds like a good deal from the European Wax Center. Make a reservation today. Your first wax is free. Let's get to the big story of the NHL weekend. And I know you're hopped up, you're excited, you're amped up. So I'm ready to get you in this. The Trevor Zegras, Tyson Nash debacle, Troy Terry, all these other actors involved in what should have been a nothing game between the Anaheim Ducks and the Arizona Coyotes. You may have seen the Trevor Zegras lacrosse style goal, which remarkable. The fact that he has a Michigan, a Michigan in stride, and then that one against Arizona, like, dude might still not even be nominated for a Calder Trophy considering how good the other rookies are this year, but he has a legitimate case to be nominated for a Calder Trophy off of the amazing goals he scored alone. So that happens, and then later on in the game,
plus what he did at the All-Star game, which I know doesn't really count, but it's like, this guy is like insane. Like, he possesses that it factor.
He
right?
has it. He absolutely has it.
Whatever it is, he's got it.
Absolutely. So to see him in a needless scrum with Jay Beagle, well, sorry, he wasn't in with Jay Beagle. Jay Beagle found Troy Terry and eventually tried, for whatever reason, just because he just got his feelings hurt over a lacrosse style goal or whatever, decides he's going to make Troy Terry the object of his fist and starts pummeling him and actually badly damages his face, which I don't know, that enraged me as just a fan of the game. I don't think we need stuff like that. And then Trevor Zegras, I think I'm sure you've seen the clip. I know I've seen the clip calling out Jay Beagle in the post game.
Wouldn't say his name though. Wouldn't say his name,
but thinks he should be effing suspended for what he did.
Elite level shade though, not saying his name.
I mean, the fact that Trevor Zegras was willing to go there, that's not something I see enough NHL players do. I see that in other leagues, but to see Trevor Zegras do that, to me, I was like, I love the fact Trevor Zegras did that. We need more guys like him to call out. I mean, it's one thing to say, you know what, we need for the entertainment aspect of the game and all that. But if it's one thing to say, we don't want any type of this thuggery in our game, for the skill players, for these guys to step up and say, like, this is a ridiculous thing to have happen. That is something that really perked up my attention.
This is going to be a short discussion because I just don't see another side to the story. Like, I don't see I can't, like, just for fun take like, oh, Jay Beagle should have punched his face in. Like, it's so obviously stupid. This is actually what I think of when I see that Zegras quote and that interview. Change is coming from the bottom up in the NHL right now. Like at the top, like we just went to those GM meetings, right? It's like we can't even pretend officiating's a problem, or we can't pretend some of this stuff with player safety. Like, I think that the change is going to come from the players forcing the league into it versus the other way around. I don't think it's going to be a league mandate. Like, all of a sudden, let's protect the guys who are putting us on the highlights, who are putting us all over your Instagram accounts and every other TikTok thing that's reaching a new audience. I mean, that's what Trevor Zegras is. Trevor Zegras represents something that can, like, get this sport to a new place. Like, there are kids out there that are playing hockey. They're in their street. They're going to the rink and they're trying to do lacrosse goals now. And it's not that I think the lacrosse goal in and of itself is going to save the sport, but I think he's igniting something in imagination of people. And so that should be protected at all costs. I don't see any other argument here. And there's still, like, these elements of old hockey culture that have to be kind of rooted out and stamped out. And I don't blame just Jay Beagle for that. Like, he grew up in that system. That's how it gets there. But, like, I mean, fighting is more or less out of the game now. You know, I haven't looked at the numbers, but I watch a lot of hockey games. I haven't seen a fight in a long time. I know this is the odd one here and there still, but, you know, in the 80s, let me tell you, my friend, there was a lot of fighting in those games. And so anyway, everything is changing, evolving, and I think more of the players, if they feel as Zegras does, should speak out, because again, they're going to force a change from the bottom up. And I think that's the way it's going to have to go. And I think it will get there too. Honestly, I really do believe that this will permeate the sport, because it's already sort of happening, but it was farcical the way that all went down. It was stupid. Two teams way out of the playoff. Like, it made no sense.
Made no sense.
The only thing we should have been talking about after that game was the Zegras goal, not this stuff.
And on top of that, there's the Coyotes broadcast where color commentator Tyson Nash, I'll just read the quote that everyone's just kind of, blown up. That's the problem with these young players. You want to embarrass guys. You want to skill it up. You better be prepared to get punched in the mouth. And I'll add that Tyson Nash on a podcast with Craig Morgan tried to clarify his words and say that he said he shouldn't have said skill it up. He should have said hot dogging. And I think he tried to make the point that after the lacrosse goal, the Ducks were smirking at the Coyotes and were basically trying to, like, showboat and all that. You ever see the clarification where someone tries to make it better and they make it worse for themselves?
It always happens, man. Just give them a shovel and keep digging.
That's basically how I feel Tyson Nash handled that whole clarification situation. What did you think of what Tyson Nash had to say?
Yeah. It speaks for itself, honestly. Like, it's the whole thing. It wasn't a good look. It wasn't good for the league.
No, that's fair. So
sorry, I don't have any deep thoughts here. Like, the whole thing was ridiculous, basically. Like, seriously, it was dumb.
But why? So after all this,
it was ridiculous.
So after all this, and we see the photo of Troy Terry walking around with his face completely damaged, his eye like bludgeoned. Up to now, with this Monday morning, I have not heard a peep from DOPS. Trevor Zegras called, and I know Trevor Zegras called for Jay Beagle to be effing suspended. Nothing. We're not going to get anything. Nothing. I think it's ridiculous.
I can't open this door. Like, this is a year. It's just because this is a year where I've lost all handle on what I don't even know what's going on. Seriously. You see some games are so poorly officiated. You see lots of incidents that just never result in anything. Others, like, I don't know what's happening. And I acknowledge those people really have hard jobs. Like, I'm not saying this is an easy matter. It's not their job to respond to Twitter pressure or like when people get fired up about something, but I really don't have an explanation. Like the Taylor Hall thing on the Leafs defenseman Labushkin. Like, I don't know where the line is. I just don't. I like a gloved punch to a guy's face that knocks him out and, he misses a couple games. Like, I don't understand why wouldn't that be suspension? Anyway, I just can't open this door because I don't have any explanation. Like, I'm supposed to be here to explain things. I don't know.
Did you see last week there was supposed to be an AMA on Reddit with Wes McCauley and it got postponed?
No, that's amazing.
It got postponed. There was Wes McCauley recorded a whole video on Twitter being like, hey, you guys can ask me anything. And on the day it was supposed to happen, it got postponed. I'm sorry. I just want to bring this up for a second because, and you can feel differently. If I'm an NHL GM, if I'm a member of the NHL media, well, I mean, yes, I am a member of the NHL media, not in the PHWA, but I do get to go on Zooms or ask questions. If I want to ask the officials about something that happened in a game, and I don't necessarily have that opportunity to do so, but a ref, one of y'all refs, gets to do an ask me anything on Reddit, I would be livid. I would be calling the league office, whoever I need to call, and I would be berating whoever is on the phone. How dare you make a ref accessible to just random fans? But you could tell me if I'm wrong. It doesn't seem as if we get that same amount of access the same way for us. If I was a GM or a media person.
I mean,
see how ridiculous that is?
The GMs can call Stephen Wacom, who's Wes McCauley's boss, who runs officiating.
Fine.
So like, the GMs do get explanations, is my point, for like behind the scenes on things that happen. It's just the public doesn't get the same explanation. That's the difference. And the public would be the conduit of a journalist, reporter, what have you, broadcaster.
I guess. But it's just really interesting to me that they were going to do it and then all of a sudden it didn't happen. Maybe there's a genuine reason for it, but it was just very, very weird that happened. And the only other thing I want to bring up with regards to fishing.
I haven't been on Reddit in forever. Like, Reddit's still a thing?
Reddit still very much is a thing. Oh, yeah. It's very much still a thing. Oh,
did they ever talk about us there?
I've seen our episodes posted up there a few times.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. But not on like any like.
Keep up with you kids, man. What's going on?
I don't know. Did you also, and we don't need to go into this if you didn't watch it, but apparently there was a big debate about fighting between Jennifer Botterill and Kevin Bieksa on, I think on Hockey Night in Canada, in light of everything that happened with Trevor Zegras. And it ended up turning into something a lot more nasty with people just putting up sexist comments about Jennifer Botterill, but we don't need to get into that. But did you see any of that? You kind of touched on the fact.
I saw all this stuff. I saw the fallout on Twitter, but I didn't see the actual debate. So I don't know who said what exactly. I know the gist, but I don't know. I didn't watch the actual exchange.
I'll say this, and this is, look, no shade to Sportsnet, no shade to Hockey Night in Canada, but that's something people were talking about all weekend. And maybe I'm not a good searcher. You could tell me that if I'm wrong. I could not find the clip of that back and forth. That's just something that should be easy for anyone to just clip up and put up online for people to see. And that should be something that could get, people on the internet to watch your product. Were there any hurt feelings in it though? Like, did it get nasty or was it professional? It was just like a back and forth. It's just that there were people who like want to see fighting in the game or don't like how Jennifer Botterill is making her point or sounding. And they just wanted to just dump on Jennifer Botterill as opposed to making a sound argument that she might be wrong or she might be right. That's the gist of what I took from the back and forth between both of them.
Okay. I mean, I worked with both of them, right? And I like them both. So it's an awkward, but I actually didn't see it. I'm not like the players, like I didn't see that time my teammate threw a dirty hit and I can't talk about it. I actually just didn't see it. So
no, but and my point in all of this, and again, I can be proven wrong, is that like that should be an opportunity. That should be something that is plastered all over the internet. If I'm Hockey Night in Canada saying that's something that people are talking about all day, there's a discussion that could be had. That should be up there for people to talk about.
Yeah. And it's got to be online because not everyone's watching TV these days.
Exactly. All right. We've covered most of the topics that we want to get to. There's just
this
one.
This is our
final
Seinfeld episode, bud. This is a show about nothing today.
I don't know if it's actually about nothing because I think we actually got a lot of really interesting topics in. And that's before we got to Ask CJ, which is the weekly segment we do on our Monday show where we take in questions off of Twitter and Discord.
There's a bunch of food questions, like an normal amount of food questions. I don't know if you included any of them, but it was weird.
There is a food question in here, which, you know what, I'll get into it from JRed548 on Twitter. Your favorite foods to eat when you're on one of your diet's cleanses. You mentioned a few episodes ago, looking for some healthier food ideas.
Well, I'm not qualified to hand this out, but I would say if you want to do sort of like a cleanse or something, you could do worse in a week or two where you just cut out like all sugars, all alcohol, like don't eat bread, don't eat dairy, and then just have whole real foods. You know, that would be the thing. But again, I'm not a dietitian. That was what I was doing that couple weeks into the trade deadline, is I just basically was eating fresh vegetables, fish, meat, and no processed foods essentially, and no alcohol. So that's what I would say is a good place to start. I also like intermittent fasting. I don't tend to eat anything before noon most days. I find that works for me. I feel better. I actually it's a lifestyle thing. It's not like a weight loss thing or something like that. So that would be what I would say. But again, I'm playing outside of my sphere of expertise here, Julian.
Chris Johnston is now a dietitian.
Yes.
From Lorenzo_P22 on Twitter. Hey, Chris and Julian, big fan of the podcast. Question for you, CJ, regarding running. Just curious on what kind of shoes you wear in the wintertime. To be honest, I don't run as much as I'd like to in the winter, mainly because of my lack of proper footwear. Any tips will be great.
I've got a tip, and this is not a show sponsor. There's these Nike Gore-Tex, I think they're called the Trail Pegasus shoes, and they've got me through the last 2 winters. Like, they're awesome. They're incredibly waterproof. They're almost like if you ever had trail shoes for hiking, like they're not as giving as a normal running shoe would be, but in the winter they're perfect because obviously you don't want to slide. And so I've had a couple pairs of those the last 2 winters, and they've got me through running outside in all conditions. You know, as I say, in the winter, you just want to go slow, especially if it's snowy or icy. Just slow your pace. It's about getting the exercise in. It's not about trying to set a personal best out there. And those shoes have been a savior for me. And as I say, not a show sponsor. I paid for them full price, and they were well worth the money.
We got a question from producer Drew. You may know from working on Steve Dango's videos and with Sportsnet.
He works for the other guys.
He does work for the other guys.
Like to see
What's your dream Final Four in the Stanley Cup playoffs?
The West is easy. Producer Drew is a Colorado Avalanche fan. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to see his Avalanche play the Flames. I think that would be a cool Final Four. I think that they're the best 2 teams in the West. And this is where my bias comes in, or my excitement. I am dreaming in my career at some point of covering an all-Canadian Stanley Cup final. So in the East, I want to keep that alive. So I'm going to have Toronto there. I also just think it's about time the narrative shifts. And I think Carolina, because here's the thing, like if I'm picking Toronto, I'm assuming they've come out of the Atlantic. I think Carolina would be intriguing. They've been on the rise. I think the ghost of Freddie Anderson returning to Scotiabank Arena would be kind of cool. We actually had in 2002 a Leafs Hurricanes Eastern Conference final. So there's some history.
I remember that.
I know it's not obvious. Like that wouldn't be the obvious pick. I mean, maybe you say Pittsburgh or something to have, late career Sidney Crosby or something. But I think I'm going Leafs, Hurricanes, Avalanche, Flames. But there's a lot of other combinations that would be cool Final Fours. So that's my personal one. And I'd love to see a Leafs Flames or Leafs Oilers Cup final, just because as I said, I've covered the league a long time, and I'd love to see two Canadian teams in the final.
Here's one from Scott Coleman. I think it'd be better for Los Angeles to finish third in the Pacific Division, being that they're a much better road team this season. Do you think home ice matters in a very tough to call LA Edmonton series, a Gretzky series?
That'd be cool. Yeah, I think home ice does matter. It matters, especially if you get to game 7. Like, I don't know that earlier in the series it necessarily matters. Like, I've heard lots of teams actually say they like starting on the road. It's sort of your expectations are a little different when you start on the road. You're just trying to win one of the first 2 games. Truthfully, you're not worried about putting on a show. You're just trying to spoil the party a little bit. I think there can be some expectant pressure when you start at home, but you want a winner take all game in your own building. You want last change for your coach in that situation. And so I will respectfully disagree with the premise here and say that as good as the Kings have been on the road this season, they would want a winner take all game for the year to be played at crypto.com arena. This is a Bitcoin friendly podcast.
From Mike_S412 on Discord. NHL players are well known for their pregame routines and superstitions. But do you have any superstitions or pregame rituals you do before a big interview or broadcast?
Good question. I go for a run every day.
Yeah,
that's part of my routine, though. I mean, but I don't have a pregame routine. It's funny. I was recently thinking of this. So the first game I ever covered in the NHL was May 2002. I was a summer student at the Canadian Press, and like my whole life at that point, I've been building up to getting to do it. And I remember my routine. I was so nervous. This is back when your recorder had to be like an actual recorder. And I went and bought like an insane amount of batteries because I didn't want to have like the batteries run out on it. I like walked around all day thinking about the storylines and what I was going to do. Needless to say, I've eased up over the years, so I don't have a huge routine. I like to get there early. Like I'm not one of these guys who's walking in when the warmups are on. Like I like to be there early. I like to have a slice of pizza if they're serving it. So that's not friendly to that previous diet for the earlier question. And I love being in the rink. I love being in the press box, seeing the scouts. The NHL is a small town, so it's just good to run into people and have a chat and then watch a game. I mean, it's a good life and it's a lot of fun. But I don't have like a specific routine. I'm not superstitious really with anything. So I'm not like Sidney Crosby, like having the same piece of peanut butter in toast every day or whatever, that kind of thing.
I go into the Bell Center, same entrance all the time. Probably try to get there about 2 hours before. That's basically it.
Right. But you don't like tie your shoes a certain way or wear a certain tie or anything like that.
Nah, nothing really. Beyond that, it's really just that. But that's a good question, though.
If it's a big game, I like walking around the arena a bit too, like outside. Like I like sort of soaking up that energy. That's what was so hard. Like this is weird, but to go back to the Edmonton bubble, like I was walking to these games from my hotel to the Stanley Cup final. It's like there was nothing on the street. Like there's literally nobody. You're the only person. And it was so weird because you're thinking like this game means so much. Like this is history. That was strange. Like I'm so glad we're beyond that time because like this year for sure, when I go to playoff games, I'm going to be feeling it in the city. Like it's whatever city I'm in. And that's the fun of the job for me. The games and the energy. Like it's like free energy. You just like plug yourself in when you go to a game. It's amazing.
I'm going to take one more off Discord from Solomon. Can y'all finally give Jack Hughes his due? The Devils suck, but he has had an elite season and he is only going to get better.
We'll give him his due. He has had an awesome season. He had that overtime goal where he threw a stick in the crowd earlier in the year. He got injured, unfortunately, which maybe dampened it. But he's finally become the kind of player that was expected of him. And I think that's most important if you're the Devils, big picture, right? Is that you get these number 1 overall picks. They're not all built the same. But clearly Jack Hughes is a real one. They gave him a big contract this year. He's going to be in New Jersey a long time. And that team, things are going to get better. I mean, it's hardly a hot take, but this was a disappointing year. I think they're expected to take off this season. Probably more likely to happen next year.
All right. And that's going to do it.
Buffalo's taken off too. We haven't given Buffalo any love on the pod, but like they look like a real team.
What's funny is, just in the interest of time, there was a question that asked about the Buffalo Sabres. We can get into it if you feel you want to add some extra stuff. But someone named Slapple on Twitter said, "Is it just me, or do the Buffalo Sabres look like a team finally heading into the right direction?" And there's some truth to that.
Not just him. Honestly, I went to that Heritage Classic outdoor game in Hamilton a couple weeks back, and I was watching them and was like, wow, like no one's really. I mean, look at Buffalo has just crushed hopes for like a decade. So I get it. Like everyone's a little maybe like gun shy to say, hey, they finally figured something out. But I think they've figured something out. And obviously they got Owen Power coming. They got Quinn coming from the minors. Like they've got some players in the pipeline, and the guys they have on their team. Peyton Krebs looks good. They've gotten the Jack Eichel trade. Obviously Alex Tuck's been a good addition. That team's got they're building back some pride there, and it's about time.
I want to see the Sabres be good. I think they have some of the better. When you look good, you play good. And the Buffalo Sabres have some of the better threads in the league, and they should be playing well and looking good at the same time. Not just one or the other.
I need some
have to give
threads.
You need some new threats, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got to look good and play good, you know?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think
shopping spree, maybe, Julian.
I mean, yeah, do your thing for Short King Spring. You know what I'm saying?
I know. Is it still Short King Spring?
It's still spring, so I think it's still your season.
Did you invent this, or is this an actual thing?
You're the one who put it in the group chat. You came up with this.
You introduced Short King Spring to us. I'm sure of it.
I thought it because you use the term short. You know what? I probably have to go back to that Short Kings episode, or maybe I did do it. I don't know. Maybe I forget these things sometimes.
No one in our group chat is like 5'10" or above, except for Jesse Blake.
Jesse Blake, looking up at that man.
Like imagine we played basketball with Jesse, like our whole, like everybody else in the SDPN and Jesse, he'd just be like swatting away. He'd be like the Kembe Mutombo out here, just like bam, 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 bam.
Do you remember when I was in town and we did that episode in Adam's basement, and we were leaving the house and we saw Jesse walking out in this like expensive blue, like feathered coat? Yeah, dude looked like a blue big bird.
I haven't been able to get that image out of my mind. He looks so baller.
Like that's cold. Like Jesse Blake, I don't know how this GM thing is working out for him on that series he's doing on Twitch, but he's definitely wearing the threads he should be wearing as a GM. Jesse Blake is that dude.
When I grow up, I want to be Jesse Blake.
I think that's a good way to end this podcast. Well done, CJ. This was a marvelous Monday edition of the Chris Johnston Show.
Yeah, thanks for entertaining me. It was fun to just be goofy again.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you for entertaining me, and thank you for entertaining everyone who listens to this podcast, which in your view might be nothing, but we do okay in terms of the numbers on a weekly basis, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on any other podcast platform like a Spotify or Apple Music or Amazon Music or Google Podcasts or anything like that. Be sure to join the SDPN Discord as well. Go to sdpn.ca. And you can find the Discord link there. If you want to be a host of Game Over, it is expanding. sdpn.ca/careers is the website you need to go to. Check out the other podcasts on the network as well. We'll be back on Thursday with a brand spanking new episode of The Chris Johnston Show. For CJ, I'm Julian saying so long and peace.
Great ad read on the European wax.
The Chris Johnston Show. Inside the game, twice a week. Follow Chris on Twitter @ReporterChris. And follow Julian McKenzie @JK McKenzie.